Hello, this is McD the Beast, and this is McD Sports 4 coming to you today with my reaction to the Week 11 College Football Playoff Committee rankings. These came out just now. I know it's a different format than usual. Usually I just show the ESPN website, but for some reason that's not working. So what I did was copy the list and have it down and put it in a Word document. So you could look at the list here. Those are the teams that dropped from the rankings. I made my own list. Let's see how my list compares to their list. Number 1, Alabama, obviously. They have the best win in college football at this point against LSU. Absolutely dominating them. No debate about that. Number 2, Clemson. No debate there either. I think that Clemson probably, as long as they beat Boston College, play well against South Carolina, I really don't see why the team, and play well in the ACC championship game, I don't see why they won't be in the college football playoffs. Notre Dame, number 3, they have a big game against, coming up, I believe. I forget who is against. So yeah, they face USC at the end of the year. I think they have a big game this week, too. I forget, but they, in my opinion, Notre Dame has to not lose a game if they want to be in the college football playoffs. Michigan, number 4. It's blatantly obvious that they're going to be the number 4 team. I think that Michigan, at this point, as long as they don't lose another game for the rest of the year, they should be in the playoffs. Number 5, Georgia, and number 6, Oklahoma. These are my first 2 disagreements. I think Oklahoma should be number 5, and I think Georgia should be number 6. And the reason why is I think that if you look at these teams' 2 losses, Oklahoma has a 3-point loss against Texas. I know in a rivalry game on a neutral site. I know Texas is probably the worst team at LSU, but you look at if you look at Georgia's loss, it's 20 points on the road against LSU. Not a rival at all, just a team, just a team in the SEC for Georgia. Also, Georgia's Oklahoma's they have played a lot better this year. They have scored a lot more points. They look more consistent as well, Oklahoma, so far this year. For Georgia, there's some games like, for instance, Missouri, even Tennessee a little bit. They have not looked consistent. So I will probably put. I have Oklahoma ahead of Georgia. I have Oklahoma number 5 and Georgia number 6. And by the way, I'm going to put my top 25 in the description below. Number 7, the committee. Number 7, the committee has LSU. I absolutely disagree with that. I think you gotta move LSU down more with 2 losses. I have the 1-loss Washington State team as my number 17. If you look at Washington State, they've beat Oregon this year. They have beat Stanford, Utah. They have some pretty damn good wins on their resume. They just beat Cal, not a bad team. As long as they beat Washington in the last week and continue winning and win the Pac-12 championship, I don't see. And if one of the other teams like Michigan or Notre Dame loses a game, I don't see why Washington State could be that team in the playoffs. They could really make a legit argument, especially if they keep on blowing out teams. If they blow out some teams. Number 8, the poll has Washington State. I have West Virginia, number 8. They really impressed me against Texas last week. I did not expect them to win that game. I thought they were overrated, West Virginia, but they came through. I would like to see West Virginia play a 12th game, even though at this point, in the regular season, even though at this point they're probably in your Big 12 championship at this point against Oklahoma. And we'll see a preview of that in Morgantown in the last week. But I have West Virginia at 8. Number 9, the poll has West Virginia. I have Ohio State. Outside of Ohio State's loss to Purdue, they've been pretty shaky the past few weeks. They were shaky against Nebraska. So, personally, I think Ohio State, you have to put them in the top 10 with a 1 loss in the Big Ten. but I am not sold on any team in the Big Ten except Michigan, really, and I'm not even completely sold on Michigan. So it'll be an interesting game. The last week in that rivalry game, Michigan versus Ohio State in Columbus, but I have Ohio State at number 9. Number 10, the poll has Ohio State. I have LSU at number 10. I moved them down in my poll. I had them at number 3. I moved them down 7 spots to 10. If you look at LSU's losses, that Alabama loss, I'm telling you, is pretty bad. And yes, I know LSU, they're probably getting credit because they're the only team that looked like they could have even competed against Alabama, even though the offense couldn't do jack shit. But if you look at LSU, it's very possible they're losing on the road against Texas A&M. I know it's not involved in the poll rankings, but LSU has 2 losses. Though to me, they're the best 2-loss team in the nation, but I can't put them above any of these 1-loss teams. That's what it comes down to me. Except UCF. I can put them ahead of UCF. Number 11, the poll has Kentucky. I have Kentucky 2 out of 11. The reason I stated the reason why Kentucky lost that game in my recap on Sunday. I still think Kentucky's a good team defensively. I have a few question marks offensively. I look at Kentucky. They still get Tennessee and Louisville on their schedule. I think they'll beat those 2 teams, and I think Kentucky will finish the season at 10-2 at this point. It'll be interesting to see if they get into what bowl they get into. Probably a New Year's Six bowl. But I agree with the poll, Kentucky at 11. Number 12, UCF. I agree with this. I can put UCF higher than 12 at this point at 8-0. You look at UCF, they don't really have a oppressive win. I know Temple was a good win, but Temple should have not really been in that game if UCF is such a glorified good program. I just do not see UCF being in the top 10 at all. I had them in the top 10 earlier this year, but once we really get down to business, I can't put them higher than 12. Number 13, Syracuse. I agree with this. Syracuse is number 13. I think Syracuse is the most underrated team in college football right now. They still have a few games left. Let's see what they do. Definitely a big improvement over the past years for Syracuse. So if you're a Syracuse fan, you gotta be really happy with your program. But I just personally think that looking at Syracuse, they're the most underrated team in college football right now. Number 14, the poll has NC State. I have Utah State. Utah State's the best team in the Mountain West and probably the second best team in the group of 5 teams outside of Central Florida. You look at Utah State, their only loss is by a touchdown on the road against Michigan State. So, if you look at, to me, Utah State, they're blowing out the teams they should, they're beating the teams they should. They get a big game against Boise State coming up here soon. If they beat Boise State and if UCF goes down, I will make the argument that Utah State, as long as they win the Mountain West Championship game as well against Fresno State, they should get into the rankings. Not into the rankings, a New Year's Six bowl. They should be in a New Year's Six bowl. Number 15, the poll has Florida. I have Fresno State. Fresno State's a pretty damn good team. The only loss is by a touchdown on the road against Minnesota. To me, Utah State's loss is a better loss, so that's why I have Utah State ahead of them. I just think Fresno State overall, they're beating the teams they should. They're doing their job. They have to beat San Diego State. And as long as they beat San Diego State, and if they win the Mountain West Championship against Utah State, and if UCF has a loss somewhere against South Florida or Houston in the championship, I just feel like I can make an argument for Fresno State as well. So I think I don't think Central Florida is your locked in candidate for the group of 5 New Year's Six bowl. I think you gotta give Fresno State and Utah State a chance as well. Number 16. The poll has Mississippi State. I have Boston College. I have Mississippi State at 17. So I have these two teams flipped: Mississippi State and Boston College. To me, Boston College also 7-2 team. They have they're a 2-loss team. That's why I have him above Mississippi State. Um, you look at Boston College, they have the wins. They have a big game coming up against number 2 Clemson. If they could beat number 2 Clemson at home, Boston College, they're going to be sniffing the top 10 in my rankings. I can guarantee that. So we'll see what they do against Clemson. I'm probably leaning towards Clemson. I know the spread's like an 18-point spread last time I checked. I do think Boston College will cover that, but we'll see what they do. But I have Boston College at 16, number 17. I have Mississippi State, as I said. They got a big win against, I believe, Louisiana Tech. They got a big win against Louisiana Tech. They get Alabama this week. I think that game's going to be similar to the Texas A&M and Alabama game. Mississippi State will stay in it for a half, and then Alabama will pull away. To me, Mississippi State and Texas A&M are very similar teams. But Texas A&M lost against Auburn this week. But if you look at Mississippi State, by the way, if they beat Alabama, I'm moving them up to at least the top 12. But to me, Mississippi State, we'll see what they do. They're going to be fine, in my opinion, Mississippi State, making a bowl game. They're already qualified, but the offense has been struggling, and the offense has to get going. At number 18, the poll has Michigan State at Florida at number 18. I was very disappointed with that loss for Florida against Missouri at home. I just feel like Florida should have won that game. That's a game that Florida's going to look back at and say we should have showed up. You do get South Carolina and Florida State still. Those should be wins, especially the Florida State game, but we'll see what happens. I just feel like Florida, they've been really disappointed, and they really disappointed me this past week. Number 19, the poll has Texas. I have NC State. You look at NC State, I just feel like they've been kind of underwhelming, not really impressing me. But I do think I still have them in the polls as a 2-loss team. I just feel like they need to play a little bit better, NC State. They got the big win against Florida State. We'll see what they do. I don't know if they scheduled a 12 game, unlike South Carolina, Akron, but we'll see what happens. But I have NC State at 19. Number 20, the poll has Penn State. I have Washington. Washington, to me, is the best 3-loss team outside Mississippi State. Their losses are against Auburn, Oregon, and Cal. So 3 good losses. They beat everybody that they should, basically, outside of that. Washington's still a good team. Jake Browning is still a good quarterback. I just feel like Washington, they're a bit underrated. So I have them at number 20. Let's see what they do. Number 21, the poll had the rankings. They have Iowa State in the rankings. They have Iowa at number 21. I actually have the other team in Iowa State at 21. Iowa State is better than Iowa in my opinion. You look at that team, very good offensively, good enough defensively. They could really make some noise in the Big 12. I don't think they're winning the Big 12 this year, but next year, as long as all the talent holds up, I think I would definitely give Iowa State a chance next year for winning the Big 12. So I have them at 21. At number 22, the poll has Iowa State. I have Michigan State at 22. I was impressed enough with them against my Terps to put them in my rankings. I just feel like Michigan State, they're a good enough team that they're going to play well and play hard against the good opponents. But I don't know if they could beat the Ohio State. Even though they get Ohio State at home this week, that could be an upset, by the way. Because Ohio State has looked really shaky. As a matter of fact, I might actually just pick that upset. I don't know yet, though. I haven't made up my mind. But if you look, to me, Michigan State, they're good enough to beat basically anybody except Alabama and Clemson, in my opinion. So we'll see what they do against Ohio State at home this week. But I have Michigan State at 22. 23, the poll has Fresno State. I have UAB at number 23. Outside of a loss against Coastal Carolina, a decent Coastal Carolina team on the road. I know, like, to me, UAB is kind of the Group of 5 version of Ohio State. They have that one blowout loss, and then they beat everybody else. And the difference between UAB and Ohio State is that UAB hasn't looked that shaky. They have a good win against North Texas. That's a pretty good team in the Conference USA as well. So I look at UAB. I just feel like they deserve to be in the rankings. They're 8-1, and I think they're going to continue playing. I don't and playing well. I don't think they're a player though in the Group of 5. The Group of 5 New Year's Six Bowl bid, only because they're in the conference they're in, and their loss is against a Sun Belt team. But if they were undefeated and let's say blow out Coastal Carolina, they would have a bid, but I just don't see it. Number 24, the poll has Auburn. I actually agree. I have Auburn at 24 as well. To me, Auburn, they got that win against Texas A&M. That's good enough to put them in the rankings. They also have a win against Washington as well. That Tennessee loss, though, is really hurting them right now. If they were beating Tennessee, they would have been higher, but that loss is really hurting. Mississippi State loss is kind of hurting you as well. And your other loss was against LSU. So two of the teams you lost to are in the rankings. The other one is not, but we'll see what happens. But Auburn, I believe they get they get Georgia actually. Yeah, Georgia. So on the road. So we'll see what they do against Georgia. I probably will pick Georgia, but we'll see. And then number 25, the rankings have Washington. I have Penn State at 25. To me, Penn State has been a big disappointment this year. That loss against Michigan State at home is killing them. They blew a lead against Ohio State. And they also lost against Michigan. They just got blown out by Michigan on the road. So they're barely hanging in there, in my opinion. And I just feel like Penn State is they got to win if they want to stay in the rankings, in my opinion, or even be considered for a New Year's Six Bowl at this point. So those are my rankings. Other teams I got considered: Army, Utah, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Virginia all got considered. And Buffalo's blowing out Kent State 41-0 at home last time I checked. So that's my that's my top 25. I'll have it in the description below. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. And this is McD the Beast signing off.